Thank you for listening to The Supply Chain Doctor, where we bring you ideas from thought leaders and new solution concepts that may be flowing under your radar. Today, I'm with Jason Moss, a friend and the founder and CEO of Georgia Manufacturing Alliance. My goal today is to learn more about his latest book, Manufacturing Your Network, 10 Secrets to Grow Your Influence and Build Your Own Profitable Network. Jason, thank you for investing time with me today.
Man, I am glad to be here. This is pretty exciting. This is, believe it or not, the first podcast that I've done around the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've done a ton of them in the past, but I've been invited to plug into a few. But I wanted to make sure I had all the bits and pieces together before I did that. And also, I've got a really cool announcement that I'll share with you kind of as we go through this session. So Thank you for the invitation, man. I love supply chain. Without supply chain, manufacturing is nothing but inventory builder. so we got to be able to move stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a fun day today.
Well, you do a lot of things besides the book. So that as a Georgia tax-paying resident, I certainly appreciate what you're doing. And we'll talk about that towards the end from a manufacturing side.
Sure.
What's interesting, I saw a LinkedIn post about your book, Jason, and then I started studying it, and this was published back in November last year.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first edition was published back in November. I have been, for 18 years, I've been working in the manufacturing space, trying to help connect leaders and help them be able to see world-class manufacturing in action, build relationships, and really learn from each other. It's about building the community. I've been doing that for the past 18 years through GMA, and I found some stuff that works and some stuff that didn't. And even prior to GMA, I was a big networking fan. Man, I love business-to-business networking. Chamber of Commerce, Power Corps, BNI. Man, if it was networking, I'd show up. And I learned a lot of things that that are lessons that I wanted other people not to have to learn the hard way. I probably should have wrote this, the 1,000 things not to do in networking. That would have been a whole lot easier because those memories are still fresh, even, 30, 40 years later.
Well, you're obviously successful at it, and I'm glad you admit there are things you can do wrong too, but you've been successful at it. You probably have all the war wounds and the scabs. But because you've been very successful with GMA. And I think that's pretty much how you got there was through all your networking and your skills there.
Yeah, it's funny, kind of the story back behind it, kind of connecting the dots on the history was when I got out of the Air Force, I was loading bombs on F-16s, right? So I was a bomb loader. Not a lot of demand for that on the outside, clearly, but I got into network marketing, and one of the groups told me, man, you got to get out and go to your Chamber of Commerce. I didn't know what a Chamber of Commerce was, but I showed up at the first meeting, man. I was like 150 people in the room. I'm going to sell everybody in this room. Started passing out my business cards like they were the hottest commodity in the town. And sadly, as I walked out the door, I noticed most of my business cards in the trash can.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because all I was doing is pitching. And so that was my first lesson. That was a good way to learn what not to do. If you make it all about you, man, it's not gonna work out. So but all of those things, all of those lessons, I ended up being pretty successful ultimately in network marketing. I built an organization of about 4,500 people nationwide. And I'd be the guy that come in and do the weekend seminars and stuff. And that was fun. I learned, but that gave me the foundation to be able to build GMA. That gave me, I learned how to gather people together and build rooms and do events and those kind of things. But the cornerstone of all of it is networking. That's the piece that I learned because, again, take a step back. When I got out of the Air Force as a bomb loader new to Gwinnett County, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a soul. So my network was zero. And I believe that people really need to invest. And that's the key, is to invest in building your network way before you need it. And that's what this is all about. If you boil it all down, that's the piece. And some of the tips and tricks, things to do and things not to do. So,
well, it's interesting you say that, build your network before you need it. That my actual used to be my favorite networking book before yours came out. Is called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty.
100%.
Harvey McKay.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what he says. You don't wait until you need it. That's well established. And the other thing is, I saw somewhere, I don't know if it was in my pre-read for your book or what, but it said, seek first to give, not
Yes.
to get. And I think that's probably I don't know what I'm going to put words in your mouth, Jason, but
Mm-hmm.
from my experience, that's probably the best thing you can do to start networking.
Oh, absolutely. Been written in a good book many, many years ago,
Oh yeah.
and I continue to try to help share that message. If you come to the table, not with expectations, trying to see what you can get, see who you can help. If you, and we'll circle back around to that a couple of times, because that is the foundation. That's the core. People really being able to build relationships outside of business is fun. And if you do networking right, you will do that. And it's a great place to find new friends and to grow your impact, influence, and income if you do it right. That's the plan. That's the system that we put together and we're sharing through this book. And your network, it truly is your supply chain. If you think about
Oh
it, man,
yeah.
going back, just let's connect this to supply chain. What happened? What did the pandemic teach us? What was the biggest thing that most people figured out in supply chain? Is supply chains, they aren't just products. They're people, they're connections, they're relationships. And when that gets disrupted, if you don't have a deep bench, what I always said was, what happened through the pandemic, so many companies went out of business, and so many companies, as they were ramping back up, they want to reach back into that old supply chain, and they were grabbing that old supply chain, and they found that a lot of the links were missing. And the chain without links, man, it only takes one for it not to work. And so that's part of what we're doing is teaching people not to build the direct supply chain through your network, but
Hmm.
also have redundancy in that. Be able to build other relationships and be the person that has the Rolodex when
Hmm.
the time comes and says, who do you know that does packaging? Or who do you know that can get this out tomorrow? Or who do you know down at the Port of Savannah that can help find that container? Right?
Right.
Man, that's priceless when you have that kind of network. And that's what we want people to do, is to be more successful in building relationships and have fun in the process.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're talking about supply chain philosophy now because a lot of people I interview, it's shifting more towards supplier relationships
Mm-hmm.
because
Yep.
it's almost like how strong is your supply base?
Right.
Because and even in that case, you have to have redundancy suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Oh, yeah.
interesting how we're talking about a networking book, yet it strictly applies to this whole supply chain network concept.
Right, right, right. Yeah, the supply chain, again, that your network is your supply chain. If you've got that thing solid, you'll be able to weather any storm and to be able to give back in unique ways that without that, there's no way possible to engage. When somebody comes to you with a challenge or a problem, they know you're the guy to fix some things, but if you're the go-to person when challenges come up, when people know that you've got a good qualified Rolodex and relationships, yeah, it builds on top of itself. And then as you train and support other people in building their network, man, it's a win everywhere.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's
Yeah.
even nice. My daughter, she's just started her career, but I remember in college, I encouraged her to even. I said, start your network now, and I said,
Hmm.
start with your professors because they're working people too,
Oh yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
something I never did in college because I thought they were authority figures. Didn't why would they help me?
Right.
But once you
Yeah.
get to know them, they're people too. They have the same goals as and aspirations as we do. So
We put them on pedestals, and
that's right.
sometimes you got to break that down. I've talked to and have sat at the desk at some of the largest highest level executives in manufacturing in the state of Georgia and around the country, and it is exactly the same thing. They are just gals or dudes just like us figuring it out. I mean, there's a couple that come to mind that are that have built powerful relationships, personal relationships with, and they struggle with the same stuff. I mean, I've got an executive level group that I do. So Georgia Manufacturing Alliance is for the manufacturing community, of course. And then I've got a manufacturing mastermind group that is for the top level execs. We don't we don't promote that. That's not something that gets out there. It's by invitation only. It's a very small select group of forward-thinking executives that are working with super successful companies now, but continue to want to be able to grow and build. And you put those guys in a room, and I'll bring in a small manufacturer, and we'll talk about, all the small manufacturers want to get to be big, right?
Sure.
But all the big manufacturers, they envy those other companies and see their success. But what happens is the bigger companies, they're so, typically they're driven, the bureaucracy inside of those companies and the red tape and all the stuff that you got to do to be a big company, right? Legally.
Yeah.
All those guys look at the smaller companies and admire how nimble they are and how fast they are to find solutions to tough problems that would take, months or years inside their organization to find or fix. And so it's funny, the big guys admire the small guys admire the big bad guys, and back and forth, but we all run into the same set of problems. It's the same, it's the workforce, it's the leadership development, it is supply chain, because that comes up more often than I ever wanted to admit. But it's all the bits and pieces, right? So all of us are running into different challenges, but when we work together and we figure out that the top guy at the largest manufacturer in the state of Georgia, or the top 10 companies, you sit down at their desk, they're just guys and gals just figuring out, like you said, just trying to make it work and trying to do the best with what they got. So when you break that down, it really does help you connect and communicate differently. And we got to keep our young people connected to that. So I commend you on that advice. That is good stuff.
And I got more of maybe this is a psychology question that I didn't have in the notes for you. So let's see how good you're on your feet. So I think networking is valuable. You get out there and do it. But I also believe networking, the skill tends to favor certain people and certain types of people, like extroverts. Does that make sense? And because not everybody, at least from my experience, not everybody's going to be a good networker because they don't like talking to people, or they just want to be by themselves. Do you share that sentiment? And if you do, what are some things people can do to make themselves?
That's a great point. Now, although you might not be able to tell it, I'm 5'8". On the Zoom, I'm this big, right? But I'm 5'8". The odds of me ever slam dunking a basketball, it ain't happening. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing that, but I can, or used to could, dribbling past the shoot, right? And so that's so find the things that work. I have historically worked in the manufacturing space in the last 18 years. I work with a lot of plant managers and operations leaders and supply chain folks and engineers. I used to sell SolidWorks. I sold AutoCAD and SolidWorks over the years, and sold 3D printers. So I was working a lot in the engineering space. Now, people typically don't see engineers as very gregarious and outgoing.
Right.
That's not a normal personality traits that they have. Not all of them. I don't say everybody, but they tend to be a little more reserved, or a lot more calculated, trying to figure out their thought processes is completely different than your traditional salesperson, or So yes, we have traits, and we grow up in communities and environments that support that, right? So engineers work with a bunch of engineers in the engineering department, working in manufacturing, not a lot of outside engagement for networking. Yes, absolutely. What we found is that if given the tools, everybody can be ultra successful if you have a system, if you have the components and you know how to do it. I don't have to be an amazing engineer, but if you give me the formulas and I know how to go through the process, I can get to the same result as, a master engineer,
right,
with every degree in the book, right? If given the tools. And that's what this is. That's the reason that I wrote this book, is like, this is not magic. It's a system. It is a basic, if you check the boxes, and if you go through this process, read the book. Now, this is the cool piece. I'm gonna let this out mid show. So I wrote the book in November. We got it. It was a bestseller on Amazon. Number one bestseller on all of Amazon in its category, which was cool. You know, we sold a bunch of books, which is cool. I am excited that we did that. But my goal is to help as many people on the planet, as long as I'm here, to help as many people on the planet increase their impact, their influence, and their income. People have a story they want to tell. People have resources and tools and services that they can provide that will make the planet better. But if you keep that in a vacuum with just the people that are immediately connected to you, how much more powerful would it be if you got that message out to the world and you had a bigger, broader network to communicate that with? So the reason said their influence, the more people that know you and that will pass that around, that's vital, right? Their impact, what can they do on the planet, and their income, right? So if done properly, you can connect this to, and it doesn't have to be money driven. I'm not a money driven kind of guy. If you know me at all, you know that's not a driver for me. But yeah, I like to eat, regularly. But outside of that, I'm good. But I want to help as many people on this journey as possible. That's the reason that I wrote the book. Yes, I'm thrilled that it got to be Amazon bestseller. Absolutely. But what we just released, and this is the latest LinkedIn post. You can go check it out. Follow me on Jason Moss. Look Jason Moss up on LinkedIn. You can find easy to find. But we're giving away. I developed a new book, and that book it's the same book, but I added a couple chapters to it, and it's the leadership edition. It is not for sale.
Oh.
It is 100% free. All the stuff in the first edition, plus some bonuses in the book itself. And then what I've done is I've developed an entire system that will help you walk through the concepts in the book, and it will give you a starting point, step-by-step process for you to build the most successful and dynamic networking group that's possible for you. And it's all free, 100% free. You just go to the website, download the stuff. If you go to manufacturingyournetwork.com, it'll take you to the page. There's a leadership edition. You go through that. It'll walk you through all the steps. And I'm not asking for tons of information, name, email, company. That's pretty much it. And then I'll send you links. It's all downloadable, right? So Amazon, doing Amazon, I had to print the book and pay for the book and all that stuff. But this is digital. It's a PDF. You just download it. And the guide, the system guide is also PDF, and you just download it to help yourself. I would invite and encourage everybody to go through the process yourself, so you know what it's about. When you download the content, you keep it. But if there are other people that want to be able to learn about the manufacturing your network process and system, send them to that page and let them go through the process. So as I'm releasing new information and sharing additional tools, they'll be able to get that information as well. Again, absolutely free to the world. And we want to make sure as many people that can use it do. Now there is, and it's funny, at the same time, as soon as we got that piece done, I had been trying to get it on Audible for a while. And so it came out at exactly the same time. So I didn't want to confuse the message. But if there's a little cost for Audible if you want to download and listen to it. I'm a big Audible fan, so I listen to tons of stuff all the time. So anybody that wants to can download it from Audible and listen to it. Again, that's included in your Audible membership or your little download. It's not much, but the leadership edition is free. And if you want to get the hard copy, you can order it from Amazon. It doesn't have the leadership bonuses in it, but that's what we're trying to do. I mean, and again, it's like I mentioned, it's not about the money to me. I mean, we made a little bit of money selling books, but I'd way rather see more people be more successful. Again, that philosophy, that core philosophy that we talked about, find a way to give, find a way to help others in the pursuit of their goals, not yours.
Right.
That's a that's a foundational piece of networking. When you walk into a room and you're looking through the room, and you've been there. I mean, heck, I'm embarrassed to say that I've done it. You're talking to somebody and you're like, you evaluate that, that's probably not going to be a great thing. Half the way through the conversation or half of the way through the sentence, you're looking around seeing who else is in the room that I should rather be, might be more beneficial for me to talk to. How does that make you feel when somebody does that to you? Right. So don't ever do that to anybody. When you engage with all of everything that you're doing. And when you're done with that, people will appreciate you for that, but it'll allow you to be able to, when you pivot, they know that they're not going to come in and help you be distracted in that way. That's just, again, little tips like that are scattered throughout this book. This is not, I will, got one later here. This is not a big, long read. This is not like a massive, massive book. Let me just tell you, it's like 90 pages. This is a quick read. If you listen to it, it's an hour and 6 minutes on standard speed. It's me reading it, and I read slower than I talk. Believe it or not. So you can listen to it on 2x and still get it all, right? So, but it's packed with things that I have learned over the years that just work. I've seen master networkers. I've studied this stuff. I wanted to be the absolutely best networker I could ever be. And I spent, years studying the experts in the field to find out what they do, and just hanging around good people to see how they engage with communities. I don't know it all. Absolutely don't know it all. But I do know that these 10 steps in here will help you be more successful and help anybody in the space. So back to your initial question, are folk, engineer folks or supply chain folks or ops folks, yeah, there, you might have a sales personality that gets out there and gets after it, that knows a lot of those things, but they're hanging around with other sales folks for the most part. I hang around. So I joined the Georgia Society of Association Executives. So did you know there's an association for association?
I didn't.
Took me a while. And I walked in there, and in my brain, man, I was thinking, I'm going to walk into a room of middle-aged or senior cheerleaders, like people with bubbly, enthusiastic personalities. I mean, because that's what it takes to run an association. For you to be able to do that, you got to bring it. For most associations to succeed, there's got to be enthusiasm in the room, and a lot of times it's left to the leader to be that. So I just assumed it would be a room full of, and there was, I wasn't far off. There were a lot of great personalities that are part of the Association for Associations. So a long answer to the question, but that's
and I believe that, because I think, and I've known you long enough to know you and I are pretty much cut from the same cloth. We like to get out and meet people.
Oh yeah.
So it's easy for us to go out and do it, but other people, and I talk to people about that as well. I said, you got to do it within the parameters of who you are as a person. Yeah. But if I can wrap back around as well, I don't want to make this a political discussion, but you said something about, talking to people at meetings, right? Focusing on them. Sure. And I read once an article about Bill Clinton, former president, I guess, or still president. I don't know how that works. But and the person said, regardless of your political philosophies, his skill is being able to make you, if you're talking to him in a meeting or in a big room, his skill is to make you feel like you're the only person there.
Absolutely.
And if the president of the United States can do that, it's pretty important, and anybody should be able to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, is you can take tips from anybody, regardless of whether you line up with them or not. You see somebody that's a master at something, watch what they do and watch how they engage. And if this is not your strong suit, if getting out and going out and networking is not something that you love to do or you're comfortable doing, most often it's because you don't know how to do it. You just hadn't been in that environment. You don't have the tools. That's what this is. This is the tool set. Go through this stuff. You will be equipped, and you'll get better over time, and you can have fun with it. That's the cool thing about it. And a lot of times people think networking is really just about collecting business cards. right? Go into an event, you go to trade shows, and trade shows are big in manufacturing, big in supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
I love going to Modex. I love going to, design to part, anything that comes to town. I go to every trade show that I can go to. I go to a lot of them that are not even engaged in manufacturing. That's another key point to the book that talks about you need to do industry stuff, but you also need to do stuff that's not connected to your industry at all in networking, because you may be the only supply chain person that shows up at that trade show at the, medical device association, medical device manufacturing association. There might not be any other supply chain folks there. You come in there and you bring a set of skills that they need. You might not know anything about medical device. I go to Roger Grabman runs the Georgia Society of Professional Engineers. Dude, I love going to a room where I am. I love hanging around smart people, right? I just love that, right?
Yeah.
And you go there and we're plugged into the Surface Mount Technology Association of Georgia, SMTA. I don't know a thing about circuit boards, right? But I like going to those events. It's a great group of people, and I love to learn and hear the challenges that they're running into, right? And so that kind of thing is, again, we dig into that in the book, how it benefits you, and you will walk away with knowledge that you didn't have before, even if it didn't all stick. 99% of it, just on both of those, go right over my head. But I've built some relationships, and now when something comes up, those guys can reach out to me, and if I can help, I love to. So, but a lot of times when you go to trade shows, circle back around to the trade shows, you go to trade shows or events, networking events, people, the only thing that's I've seen that's pretty consistent across the board of the untrained person in networking is they think is how many business cards initially, how many can I hand out? On the backside, it's how many can I collect? And then what you do is you go collect this whole stack of business cards, and you got them sitting on your desk or scattered out on your desk or stuck in a drawer, and you never do anything with them.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well just stay at the house, right? Why waste your time or theirs?
Right. Good points.
If you're there for a reason, and again, if you have a system that will walk you step by step what to do before you ever walk in the room, what can you do to make it more successful? And in the book, it goes through and it gives you the structure. You need to be able to identify who's in the room ahead of time, exhibitors and attendees. You need to do just a little bit of research, 5 minutes of research on LinkedIn to see what that company, if they've got a press release on a new product that they just developed. You don't want to walk up to, and I've done it, man, again, I'm embarrassed to admit, but most of my career, I walked up in a trade show booth and said, "Hey, what do y'all do?"
Right.
And then they got to, start from scratch. But if you walk in there and say, "Hey, man, I just saw you just released XYZ product, and it looks like it's going to be a huge success. Tell me what you did to make that happen." Dude, you are a breath of fresh air. Those guys, like, if you're on the other side receiving that, how are you going to think?
Sure.
Do you want to talk to this guy or somebody that just walked up and said, "What is it y'all do?"
Yep.
Or you want to buy my stuff, right?
Yeah, that's a great perspective. It's almost like interviewing for a job. You've got to ask the right questions, show interest in the other person. Now, let me ask you this: there are other. I'm not the only one that reads other books, so I've read several networking.
Sure.
I'm sure everybody listening's probably done similar. What makes this? What makes yours unique?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. There's a couple of things that really when I wrote this book, I wanted to take the time to make sure that I wrote it in such a way that it would be the cliff notes, right? I could have wrote. I mean, you've heard me talk. I can talk for 10 minutes or 10 days. Never take a breath. I mean, I just, I love communicating. I love doing that stuff, and I love to write. I mean, I'm not a great writer, but I enjoy going through that process. And communicating as best I can. My wife this is actually the second book I've written, and I've been, the first book I wrote was launched it right at COVID, manufacturing success in Georgia. And it was a history of Georgia's manufacturing from Eli Whitney and the cotton gin to the latest and greatest Gulfstream, right? There's a whole long story behind that. We won't get into it, but that was fun. Learned a lot about writing, a lot about books, a lot about publications and all that. And my wife just been drilled me for years. She wants me to write a chicken soup for the soul, because I told her stories about me growing up on the farm, and with family and all this stuff, and I like telling those kind of stories. And I told her I'm gonna get to that, but I got this other one that I really want to write. And so I wrote this book. So I sat down and I wrote this book. Me and my buddy Nathan McGill kind of helped me go through the editing and clean it up and make it a lot more presentable than I would have done it by myself. But I went through and wrote this book and thought, how can I give back what I've been given? How can I communicate truly? And could I have made it 200 pages and had you listen to all the different stories of my childhood and business relationships and the things yeah, absolutely. But what I want to do is I want to cut right to the bone and say, these are the things that I have found. These are the things that matter. Cut all that other stuff out. This is the Cliff Notes. Apply these things and let me know how it turns out. Right? Tell me if I missed something, right? Tell me if something didn't work out like you had expected. That's one of the biggest things is again, it is the brevity. This is a quick read. Everybody, I mean, we've gotten rave reviews on this thing because of that. And people like, I just want to know, just tell me the answer. Just, I don't want to hear all this, when somebody asks you what time it is, don't tell them how to build a watch, right? Tell them what time it is. That's all you want. Just tell me what time it is. That's what this is. So that's one of the pieces that sets it apart. And after reading it, the first time I had Candy read it, she's like, wow, that's really cool. She said, that book was like really good. I was putting it together and seeing if I could do something with it. And she's like, no, really, I can use the stuff that's in there with church and our Sunday school group and our civic things that we get involved with and the community and family. She said the concepts, you did such a good job. It helped me see it differently and how I can use it in the real world. Now, for her, the real world is anything outside of manufacturing. She's like, so I can use it in the real world. So that really gave me some encouragement and inspiration to push it as hard as we have and to tune it in. So those are really the two biggest things is it can be used in the outside in any aspect in any business or in the real world. And then it's not a bunch of fluff. It's just straight to it. Give me the goodies.
Yeah, Jason, let me give my perspective as an outsider with no vested interest in the book outside of it's successful because I like you. But I like it because it's the first networking book that I've read that kind of lays out, here's the process. Here's how you do it. Not go out and do it or be a friendly guy or ask the other person about themselves. You kind of, the way you presented it and the way it lays it out is kind of the step 1, step 2, step 3. Just for example, like you said, if you're going to an event, a meeting, or like a networking event or a professional meeting, find out who's there before you get there.
Yeah.
And because that's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to make your conversations more productive. So from my perspective, just the fact that you've kind of laid out a process or a system, that's helpful.
Yeah. And I tried to keep it consistent in the way that I presented it. We wanted to problem, solution, result. You'll see that everything in there, we talk about the problem. What is it that you might be running into? And then how do you fix it? And then this is what the result will look like when you do. It is story brand. So if you're familiar with story brand, that's really the whole book has been written out: problem, solution, result. Problem, solution, result. In every chapter, it tells you what the problem is, what people typically do, what I've done over and over and over wrong, and then how do you fix it? And then once it's fixed, what does it look like when you're done? What does a win look like? Right. So that's the framework that allows you to kind of go through and break it down. So that's the structure. And although I'm not naturally an organized kind of person, that's for our supply chain folks and our operations folks and all of those. I'm the cheerleader on the side of the thing saying, let's go build a tree house. I got the hammer. Let's go. I don't need plans. Let's just go. Right. That will get you a result. Right.
Yeah.
But I worked really hard to make sure that the structure would be something that anybody can follow. And if you follow it, it will generate new results that you will be happy with for sure.
Well, Jason, I'm glad you've written a book. I'm glad I assume it was a professional achievement of yours to do that. So
Yes.
congratulations on that as well. Before we end the show, as we ramp down, I guess, why don't you can you give me like the Reader's Digest version of all that stuff behind your over your shoulders and what's Georgia Manufacturing Alliance?
Oh yeah. So Georgia Manufacturing Alliance, I'll ring the bell just a little bit. I've founded this thing back in '08, with the sole purpose to help support and grow manufacturing across the state of Georgia. And we do that through hosting plant tours, networking events, and educational sessions. Our goal is to be able to help industry leaders see world-class manufacturing in action through plant tours and build relationships through those plant tours and also through networking, so that when something comes up, they then have a Rolodex of people. They have a group of people. So they don't have to call me, hey, Jason, who do you know? Well, that's great. I'll help when I can. But you should be at these plant tours and you should be at these networking events so you can find and build your own Rolodex, because you'll build it differently than mine. I'm glad to make the introductions, but what we're doing is we're building the platform, and have been for 18 years, for people to get together and go see some amazing manufacturing. We toured everything from mom and pop machine shops to Gulfstream, right? Some Gulfstream and Caterpillar. And I mean, no, we're not political. We are a for-profit industry association, which is unique. So we don't do any politics. I don't have one penny of government dollars. None of your tax dollars come to me. I mean, we are run 100% by memberships and corporate sponsorships. We got a few corporate sponsors that love what we do and just want to help us along in our journey. But we did, we toured last year. We toured. I love coffee, I love guns, and I love cars. Right. So last year we toured Daniel Defense, which makes some of the finest firearms in the world. The next month we toured Starbucks, which makes world-renowned coffee,
Mm-hmm.
and Kia and Hyundai, all back to back. Now, that's about as big a political tent as you can pitch in the state of Georgia. And the reason I say that is because what the magic happens is when you can get people from all aspects of all of those companies to sit together at a table and share best practices and build relationships. When you take all that mess out of it, it's just people, right? And they're trying to figure it out, and they love helping other people figure it out in the process. So this is the only place in the state of Georgia where people can get together at that level, specifically in the manufacturing space, to build those relationships and learn from each other. So that's the foundation of GMA.
You still have the big annual conference thing?
Yeah. So this is the first year we're bringing the summit back. It'll be September 15th at the Cobb Galleria. They're limited space this year because they're doing some renovations. So we're only going to be able to have 500 people attend. It will sell out. I mean, we've already got,
get your tickets now.
Down to like five. I think we got five, maybe six booths left total. So all of our booths have sold out. We hadn't even announced a keynote yet. So, and to be able to sell out a trade show without a keynote, big conference, that's a pretty big feat. So we're finalizing the keynote now, and announcements will be coming out soon. But if you're interested in exhibiting at that summit in front of 500 top industry leaders, that is a great opportunity for the right companies and want to partner with us to bring that to the table. So that's the summit. And then back to the book, just touch on the book just a little bit, is there are going to be additional resources that are going to be available. We're going to do some webinars and that kind of some trainings online. I will eventually do some seminars around that piece of it. And I love to help leaders be more successful. So as there's opportunity, anybody, open for keynote opportunities, for conferences, for trade shows, for companies, and then leadership training. So those are some of the things that are going to be available. But this is kind of the foundation for a lot of stuff that we're doing out, in addition to GMA, to enhance GMA, but also to help the industry as a whole. So I'm excited about those potentials. So those are really some of the big pieces that we've got coming out. And then again, if you go through this, you like it, make sure that you share it with other folks and have them go through the process. Go to the website, download the thing, that way they'll be in the loop as we roll out new components and additions to it.
And to help them get the word out, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah,
LinkedIn
the
or
best.
DMA?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn. If you just look up Jason Moss, Jason Moss, I think it's Jason S. Moss is my LinkedIn official profile. But if you go to georgiamanufacturing.com, you can scroll through, look at the website. There's a ton of information on there. Our staff will, if you send anything to support, they'll make sure that it gets to me. But the website is online, georgiamanufacturing.com. And then if you want to dig into the book and see kind of what that process is, it's manufacturingyournetwork.com. And that'll give you all the details, give you all the access to all the goodies and parts and pieces. If you want the hard copy, you can get it on Amazon. If you want the Audible, you guys just got to get through those guys. But all the leadership edition and all the other resources are free at manufacturingyournetwork.com.
That's great. And Jason, again, as a taxpayer in the state of Georgia, I appreciate everything you've done to help maintain our core manufacturing base.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm thrilled to be here today. Hopefully, I checked all the boxes. And one of the things I always like to ask is, as I wrap up any conversation, what was your favorite part about the things that we talked about today?
Mine was just the learning about it's a system and a process, kind of how we got down through it. And then again, I've known you for, as you said, I think I talked to you right when you started this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact I like seeing people be successful.
Yeah,
And that's important. And to see the smile on your face, I can tell you're living a dream.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Just enjoying that, trying to add value where I can. And I really, again, I'm honored and thrilled to be on this session with you. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do in the future and helping some more folks in the space.
All right, man. Thank you.
All
And
right.
thanks the listeners again for investing part of your day to listen to the Supply Chain Doctor, where we bring ideas from thought leaders such as Jason and new solution concepts that may be flying below your radar. Please like or subscribe to the channel and leave a comment if you can. If you want to make a comment, you don't know what to say, just let us know a supply chain topic or another book maybe that you might want us to inquire with the author. And remember, when I'm not bringing you great learning content, I'm helping companies improve their warehouse performance. So if you have a warehouse or a DC or a fulfillment center and you think it could be better, please give me a shout. Thanks for listening.